Keith Mouser, Larry the Cat. He was stuck outside on the steps of number 10 where he lives, hoping someone would open the door. A police officer on duty outside the house took pity on Larry, knocked on the door, and somebody let him in. Apparently, the Prime Minister was home after all.
With intern Louie, that's this week's edition of Lola's Lowdown.
And we have a big special report. Louie, the intern, has graduated. There he is, to a round of applause in the newsroom. Yes, Lola's checking out the big celebration. Hats in the air. Oh, now.
Right now at 5, an attorney for the man accused of killing a Lake Mills firefighter says his client was under the legal limit.
President Trump is telling congressional leaders that the partial government shutdown could go on for months, what that could mean for the economy.
And Governor Scott Walker says he might be interested in running for office again.
This is News 3 at 5.
And thanks for staying with News 3. A twist in the death of a Lake Mills fire captain.
The lawyer for the man authorities believe is responsible for the death says his client was driving under the legal drinking limit. Keely Arthur is in the news center now to explain. Keely?
28-year-old Samuel Kramers is facing a tentative charge of homicide by drunken driving, but his lawyer says his client blew below the limit of .08 during an on-scene breathalyzer test. Kramers is accused of killing fire captain Christopher Truman. Truman had stopped on the side of the Beltline Monday night to help another driver. Kramers then hit Truman after Truman exited his vehicle. He blew a .079 at the scene. Former Dane County District Attorney Tim Veerhoff says the district attorney's office can still prosecute Kramers despite the breathalyzer results.
If my alcohol concentration is an 0.78, we'll say, it's close to 0.8, but not an 0.8. But I can't complete the field sobriety test because I am too impaired. They couldn't charge me, and they can get a conviction on an impairment charge.
He submitted to a blood test the night of the incident. That is at the state crime lab right now, and the results could be a major factor in this case. Now, Kramer's lawyer, Sean O'Connell, couldn't go on camera today, but says that he believes this is likely a bad roads accident. You'll remember it was very snowy Monday night.
All right, Keely Arthur reporting in our newsroom tonight. Keely, thank you. Meanwhile, 2 businesses in Lake Mills will hold fundraising events in honor of Captain Truman. The Lake Mills Market grocery store has started a donation drive in honor of Truman. The store started the fund with an initial donation of $500. The Lake Mills Culver's restaurant will hold a fundraiser Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. in Truman's honor. The restaurant said it'll donate 10% of sales to the Lake Mills Fire Department.
Let's head out to the weather patio for a first check on the forecast. Gary Canalti, a little January thaw today.
Yeah, big January thaw. Actually, I mean, we still have some snow on the ground behind me, but it continues to shrink. And with temperatures expected in the 40s tomorrow, upper 30s on Sunday, and back in the 40s on Monday, that snow that you see on the visible cloud track will continue to shrink over southern and eastern Wisconsin. Just some mid and high level clouds coming in from the west, but no precipitation right now. So it looks like we'll stay dry through the weekend. Things pretty quiet over southern Wisconsin. Low temperatures this morning start out very mild. Here in Madison, we were at 29 degrees. A few places were in the upper teens, but most everybody was in the upper 20s to around 30 degrees. High temperatures, though, soared into the 40s across much of southern Wisconsin. Here in Madison, so far we've been at 46. Milwaukee at 49 degrees. La Crosse at 46. And current temperatures are in the upper 30s. These temperatures will drop off a little more rapidly tonight, and then we could see some areas of fog form overnight. So by tomorrow morning, look for some areas of fog. Temperatures, though, only falling to the upper 20s to around 30. Then look for another very mild day tomorrow with sunny skies and a high temperature of 44. That's your first alert forecast.
All right, thank you, Gary. Authorities say a Madison boy stabbed 2 teens who attempted to rob him at gunpoint in his own home Wednesday night. Madison police say a 14-year-old was at his home on Fraser Place when he heard knocking on his door. 2 15-year-olds were at the door. The boy said he knew one of the boys who asked for a glass of water, so he invited them inside. The 15-year-olds were leaving when one of them pulled a handgun from his waist and demanded his property. They started fighting, and during the struggle, the victim pulled a pocket knife and stabbed both 15-year-olds in the leg and buttocks. Both of the teens that were injured were taken to the hospital and then brought to the juvenile detention center and are facing charges.
The Madison man accused of hitting another driver and killing him last summer while high on LSD enters a no-contest plea in Dane County Court. 22-year-old Gavin Viam faces 25 years when he's sentenced on the charge of homicide by intoxicated use of a motor vehicle. Viam slammed into the back of a vehicle driven by 45-year-old Deanno McCullough last June 23rd. Viam later admitted to drinking and using LSD prior to the crash. He will remain jailed due to violating conditions of his bail.
A 78-year-old woman has life-threatening injuries after getting hit by a vehicle while walking in a crosswalk. Police say the driver, a 53-year-old Madison man, said he did not see the woman in the crosswalk around 6:15 last night on East Washington Avenue at Pauling Street. The driver slammed on the brakes but was unable to avoid hitting the woman. She was taken to a hospital with head and other injuries. Officers say the driver showed no signs of impairment and has been very cooperative with police.
Madison Police Chief Mike Koval's talking about his goals for his department in the new year. Chief Koval said he's focusing on the issue of teens getting caught committing multiple crimes, as well as focusing on the issue of retaining officers within the department. Chief Koval also reacting to comments that Madison Alder Paul Skidmore is making about Tree Lane Apartments. The Madison PD has received 250 calls to the complex since it opened in June. Alder Skidmore says he's disappointed with the lack of urgency, resolve, and follow-through by the mayor's office, city housing staff, Heartland Housing, and the Madison Police Department to resolve the issues in connection to those Tree Lane apartments. Chief Koval says most of the people that live there are good people, but there are some problems.
I think a lot of the concerns we see are from a handful of residents, not to mention the unintended consequences of guests or visitors who are non-compliant. They have no skin in the game, and those are the behaviors that I think are really what's driving the behaviors that we see happening today. So everything from disturbances to fight calls to domestics to stolen cars figuring out there. It has clearly been a problem for us, and we're working with Alder Skidmore to address those.
Heartland Housing, which manages those apartments, released a statement to News 3 saying, quote, "We have had collaborative meetings with the mayor's office and police, as well as increased security technology throughout our buildings, including additional cameras, alarms, and tightened access. We're also working to transition select families who have been unable to abide by the terms of their lease agreements and are experiencing a decrease in the number of service calls, which we expect to continue."
For the second time this week, congressional leaders left the White House without a deal to reopen parts of the federal government. Day 14 now of the partial government shutdown over President Trump's insistence on funding for his proposed wall at the U.S.-Mexico border. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer met today at the White House, told reporters their nearly 2-hour meeting with the president was somewhat contentious. President Trump called the meeting productive.
We told the president we needed the government open. He resisted. In fact, he said he'd keep the government closed for a very long period of time, months or even years.
The shutdown could go on for months or even a year or longer. Did you say that? And
I
is
did.
that your...
I did.
Is that your assessment of where we are?
That. Absolutely, I said that. I don't think it will, but I am prepared.
Each day, the government shutdown continues. Tens of millions of dollars is lost for the U.S. economy.
Our Jamie Perez shares the economic impact we could see if the shutdown continues for the foreseeable future.
Now in the second week of the government shutdown, UW-Madison economics professor Bruce Hansen is reflecting back on the last major shutdown the country faced in 2013.
That was about twice as large because more of the government was affected. So we're guessing that this shutdown is about half the magnitude.
Half the magnitude, but experts say this may still end up costing the American people more than the $5 billion Trump is asking for to build the border wall.
We could end up being a cost about 1/5 of 1% of GDP, which is meaningful but not huge. The bigger effect is really the uncertainty that people don't know what's going to happen.
With President Trump saying the shutdown will last as long as it takes, the uncertainty looms over just how much impact this shutdown could have on the economy.
No one can get inside the minds of politicians.
Most routine federal operations are curtailed until further notice.
And so the whole cycle is off. No one knows what to do.
The 2013 government shutdown cost the U.S. economy about $24 billion while it shut down for 16 days.
Well, if it keeps on going, it will just steamroll. And the eventual thing could be a recession.
Analysts estimate this government shutdown could cost about $6 billion a week.
I'm hoping for that the shutdown will go away, that the government will go back to business, and that there'll be smarter leadership on top.
In Madison, Jamie Perez, WISC News 3.
Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are continuing to work without pay or aren't working at all during the ongoing shutdown.
Governor Scott Walker says he's not ruling out running for office again. As for another run for governor, he says never say never, but says it's likely that Republicans will want a new face. And he says he won't run for president in 2 years, but he is more interested in a U.S. Senate position, possibly in 2022. He says especially if he thinks he can get things done in Washington to transfer power back to the people of Wisconsin. As for the current partial government shutdown, the governor says it's not a problem.
I'd love for the federal government to be shut down more because I think
their jobs are at stake.
I think the federal government is a mess, and as long as Social Security checks are going out, Medicare is being taken care of, the military is being taken care of, I'm actually okay with the federal government being shut down. I think the federal government creates more problems than it solves.
Governor Walker's immediate plans are to hit the speaking circuit. He says although he turned down a few offers to be part of the Trump administration, he will still be President Trump's chief advocate in Wisconsin, and he plans to live in downtown Milwaukee.
A newly elected Michigan congresswoman has stirred up Capitol Hill with her call to impeach the president.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
Just hours after being sworn in for her first day on the job, Michigan Democrat Rashida Tlaib was recorded at an event Thursday night. She avoided reporters this morning but didn't back down from her comments, tweeting she'll always speak truth to power. While some members of her party agree about impeaching the president, others were quick to condemn Tlaib's language.
You cannot accomplish very much of anything unless you have civility and show respect for your colleagues. And I think those kind of comments do not take us in the right direction.
We watched a new freshman stand up, use this language, get cheered by their base, and we watched a brand new speaker say nothing to her.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said at a town hall she doesn't like the profanity, but also said she's not in the business of censorship.
We're starting the new year with a new Congress that looks different after a record number of women were sworn in this week in the nation's capital. Still, women make up less than a quarter of all political leaders nationwide. UW Extension is hoping that its new research outlining strategies that women should use when running for office will help get more of them to the Wisconsin state capitol, as well as local governments around the state. During the last general election, women were elected to just 23% of all offices at the national, state, and local levels. But the problem isn't that women are not winning their races, it's that they're not running in the first place. Another challenge is finding where to run.
Women don't tend to want to run against an incumbent, so finding the right seat, finding a seat that may be vacant or a board that already has some women on it.
Here in Wisconsin, the new class of state legislators that will take office next week will include 35 women, 27% in total. Still, local advocacy groups say they won't be satisfied until there is equal 50-50 representation.
More to come on News 3 at 5. Up next, why a family-owned deli with longtime ties in the Madison area is going out of business.
And Madison's mayor is proposing a deal that could continue work on the Judge Doyle Square project. We'll tell you what it includes when we come back.
And a strong jobs report sends stocks soaring. The Dow up 747 points. NASDAQ climbs 275. The S&P 500 added 84. We'll be right back. A family-owned deli chain with long-time ties in the area is going out of business.
All three Jacobson Brothers meats and deli locations will close their doors at the end of the month. Madeline O'Neill is here now with the details. No more potato salad.
No more potato salad. Yeah, even if you haven't been to one of their locations in Stoughton, Madison, or Sun Prairie, you've likely tried their famous potato salad, which is sold at grocery stores across the area. Jacobson Brothers is also known for its fresh meat selection, including homemade brats. The business was originally established in 1932, and at one time there were 9 locations. That number is now 3, soon to be 0. Its owner, Mark Jacobson, says it's because the competition from big-time stores like Walmart and Hy-Vee have taken a hefty cut out of his business. Jacobson wants to thank his customers for their support over the years.
Especially our loyal customers that came in and day out and got their staples from us, and I'm sorry to say goodbye, but unfortunately we just couldn't survive any longer.
Jacobson says business started going downhill when the deli locations inside Brennan's stores closed. Now you still have time to make it to the delis for some last-minute potato salad if you want to. Their last day is January 31st.
Oh, it's hard to see him get so emotional.
Yeah, you hate to see that. Those local businesses. We wish him well.
Thank you, Maddie.
You're welcome.
Madison Mayor Paul Soglin proposing a deal that would replace Beitler Real Estate as the developer of half of the Judge Doyle Square project. The long and expensive project was put on hold in November after the city council voted against a $600,000 payment to the developer that would have kept this project moving. To restart the project, Mayor Soglin proposed splitting the development between 2 developers and eliminating any litigation involving Beitler. The amendment to the project would keep the development of Block 105 with Beitler, but would require Beitler to return the right to development on Block 88 back to the city. The city would then pay Beitler $700,000 for the release of the Block 88 development.
The Prep Mania game of the week will be at Madison East tonight. The Pergolders are ranked #1 in the state in Division 1. They'll get a big test from Madison La Follette, who's only a game behind the first-place Pergolders in the Big 8. You can watch it live tonight at 7:15 on channel3000.com.
All right, Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti joining us now with a complete look at his forecast and this warm-up we've been experiencing. Gary?
Well, very comfortable out here. Skies are clear. It was a beautiful day. We had bright sunshine. Might see some fog tonight as the temperatures cool, and we've added some moisture to the air because of the snow melt, which right now is starting to show some holes up around Eau Claire. Very little snow on the ground to the east of there. Most of southern Wisconsin seeing about 1 inch or 2 of snow on the ground, but that's down a couple of inches from yesterday, and that will continue to shrink as temperatures drop or continue to stay well above normal, even though the average high temperature should be around 26. Look for highs in the mid-40s tomorrow, upper 30s on Sunday, and back to the mid-40s with some rain on Monday. That won't help keep the snow around either. And then while I've dropped the temperatures down a little bit in the second part of the forecast, are still expected to stay above normal through the end of the week with just some chances for light snow toward Friday and Saturday. The time lapse from the Queen Bee Radio Skycam in Platteville shows a beautiful sunrise and bright sunshine for much of the day, of just a couple of cirrus clouds. Here's the live view from the Queen Bee Radio Skycam, and you can see things very quiet. And you notice too the snow in the foreground. A lot of that has melted during the day. Live view from the WISC Skycam looking off toward the east shows the bright lights of Madison shining underneath the clear skies, and the Edgewater Skycam in downtown Madison showing clear skies as well. As we check out the almanac for today, our high temperature of 20 degrees above the average high of 26, the low temperature of 29, 3 degrees above the average high of 26. So that just shows you it was an unseasonably mild day today. 38 the current temperature with mostly clear skies, winds out of the west at 3 miles per hour. As we look at low temperatures, even at night, these are about what our average high temperatures should be. And statewide, those temperatures stayed in the 20s. Milwaukee didn't even drop below freezing. And current temperatures are still above freezing statewide, with a few places like Milwaukee above the 40-degree mark. Milwaukee hit 50 earlier today. Weather Track shows those upper-level winds continuing in a west to east direction through the northern part of the United States as the typical split flow El Nino weather pattern continues. That just drives a storm system through the southeastern portion of the country with more rain. That's staying to our south. The next weather system coming in from the north and west doesn't have a lot of moisture associated with it. So in the short term, we're looking for more sunshine for tomorrow and mild weather. High pressure is located across Nebraska. It'll slowly move across the Midwest for the next couple of days, keeping our weather quiet. Temperatures 30s here, 40s and some 50s to our west. On future track, you can see skies remaining clear or partly cloudy overnight with some areas of fog, but we'll see sunny skies for tomorrow. Then as the cold front drops southward, we'll see a little more cloud cover as we head into Sunday, but the next chance of rain looks like it'll hold off until Sunday evening. Could see a mix of rain and snow changing to rain. 44 for the high temperature for tomorrow after early morning fog gives way to partly sunny skies. The low tonight should be 28. On future track, you can see just a little bit of fog forming overnight, lows in the upper 20s, highs tomorrow in the middle 40s. Clouds move in later tomorrow night with low temperatures in the middle 20s, and then Sunday not as mild with high temperatures in the middle to the upper 30s. 7 to 10 day forecast, those temperatures remaining above normal, although not quite as warm for the end of next week. Rain on Monday, starting out as a mix of precipitation Sunday night, and then some light snow chances from Friday into Saturday of next week. Temperatures closer to normal by the end of next weekend. As we take a look at first alert traffic tonight, some slowdowns on the eastbound Beltline. That's the view from the DOT camera in the Beltline and John Nolan Drive. Right now, delays start around West Broadway, head back to around the Fish Hatchery Road interchange. Right now, 22 minutes in the eastbound direction between University Avenue and the interstate, 17 minutes back in the westbound direction on the Beltline. Heading out of Madison, it's 26 minutes down to Janesville on I-3990 from the Beltline, 17 minutes to Sauk City on US 12, and 19 minutes to Sun Prairie on East Washington Avenue and US 151. That's your first alert traffic.
All right, thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. Ahead at 5, developing a food allergy as an adult. It's more common than you might think. We'll have the results of a new study next. New estimates show just how many adults in the U.S. are affected by food allergies.
The new research shows it's more common than previously thought to develop allergies in adulthood. Dr. Malika Marshall has more.
Christine Collins carries her EpiPen wherever she goes. The 42-year-old developed a life-threatening food allergy to shellfish in her 20s after eating seafood her entire life.
My throat was closing up, and by the time we were in front of the emergency room, I couldn't breathe.
New research shows an estimated 26 million adults have a food allergy in the U.S. That's 1 in 10 adults, and nearly half developed at least one of their allergies in adulthood, like Christine.
It certainly points to this being a very prevalent issue and likely more prevalent than we've previously recognized, particularly the adult onset.
The study in JAMA Network Open surveyed over 40,000 adults and found shellfish was the most common food allergy in adults, followed by milk, peanut, tree nut, other fish, egg, wheat, soy, and sesame. But the researchers also found that many adults who believe they have a food allergy may only have a food intolerance or another health condition. Mass General Hospital's Dr. Wayne Schreffler works with food allergy research and education.
Patients need to get a proper diagnosis so that if they are at risk of severe reactions, they're prepared to deal with them. It's also important because it can be misdiagnosed, or people can think they're allergic to the wrong things and avoid foods unnecessarily.
Christine knows how important the right diagnosis is.
Go and get checked out by an allergist. Get a blood test and be sure, because you don't want to find out the hard way.
In addition to carrying an EpiPen, she now wears a medical alert bracelet to stay safe. Dr. Malika Marshall, CBS News, Boston.
The study also found half of patients with adult onset allergies had very serious reactions that sent them to the emergency room.
And stay with us. We'll have another check of your forecast in just a moment.
Here's a look at some of the stories we are working on. The president says he's willing to keep the government shut down for years. The new back and forth over the partial government shutdown. A former Navy SEAL has been charged with murder. We'll explain why. And the man who turned a lost check into a found purpose. Steve Hartman on the road tonight on the CBS Evening News.
And an unseasonably mild weekend.
Yeah, temperatures are starting to cool off, but they're still above freezing. 38 right now in Madison. Look at Milwaukee. They're at 44. Decorah, Iowa, 41. Tomorrow, high of 44. Sunny skies after some early morning fog. 38 with more clouds on Sunday, and then some mixed rain and snow, maybe a little freezing rain north of Madison Sunday evening, changing to rain Sunday night into Monday. A little colder toward the end of next week with some light snow chances, but no big storms then.
All right, Gary, thanks. We're back in 30 minutes for News 3 at 6.